the Vegas take, Sharp and Shapiro. That was a crazy 2 hours of radio, boy. What a crazy news day, but it's fun to... See, that's what I love about doing this show, right? One day you could have Michael Avenatti on the show, and then the next day you have Alice Little. If you don't know who she is, tomorrow we have her on the show. She is the little person that was in the HBO series Cat House. What would you call that? Would you call that... I don't want to use the W word to call that a W house. You know, I don't want to be rude, but it's a prostitution house.
It's called a brothel.
A brothel. Okay, I'm sorry. So Alice Little, who's about 4 feet tall, she works at the brothel, so she'll be coming on tomorrow. So we like to mix things up here a little bit on the show, but this is going to be a fun segment because big fan of the person we have in studio right now. She is extremely funny. She is one of the up-and-coming rising comedians on the planet, and if you haven't seen her, you certainly need to do that. It is Sara Buckley, also known on social media as Not the Worst Mom. Sara, thanks for being here. How are you?
Thanks, I'm doing good.
We go from politics, and then we have a comedian in studio. That's what I love about this show.
It's a great transition.
It's a nice transition, yeah.
So this is the only question I'm going to ask you about this, because I have to ask. What do you make of Donald Trump and his orange hair? What do you make of the situation that's going on in politics today? There's a lot of comedians that are having a lot of fun with this stuff.
Right.
Do you talk about politics in your act? What do you make of this political spectrum of what's going on today? Because it's crazy.
I mean, I just, for one, appreciate how thick he is. And I think that's about where it
You like his
where it
man
stops.
boobs. Is that what you're saying?
No, I was talking about his backside.
Oh, you like his backside.
I'm a little jealous.
So
He's more blessed than I am in that area.
What would you, so explain this to me, by the way. Put yourself in Stormy Daniels' shoes for a second. Would you ever have unprotected sex with Donald Trump? Because that's what Stormy Daniels did. What woman would do that for his looks? I mean, I don't understand.
I think it's pretty clear it was for his wallet.
It has to be, right?
Because I mean, so yes, I would.
Wallet / backside.
Imagine if you're Melania Trump. Right. Imagine if you're Melania Trump and you see Donald Trump naked on a regular basis. At least I would assume that. It can't be a pretty sight, right, Sara?
Maybe that's why her face looks like that all the time. Just permanently squinting. I don't know.
But you're a mom, right? You do a lot of that. I mean, she's a mom also. Her son... What's his? What's
Barron?
Barron, right? Barron Trump.
Barron, who's about 6'7" now at 13 years old.
Yes, and Donald Trump has said, "Well, that's her son." I mean, he said that a couple times. That's her. I don't know. It's a weird thing. But do you think that Melania and Donald are intimate with each other?
Oh, I don't think about their intimacy.
I think about it all the time.
I feel like it's more of a contract. Like she is contractually obligated to a couple times a month.
So you think they wrote something out like...
In paperwork, for sure. It was notarized.
Where she has to have sex with him. You think it's in the Oval Office, or do you think it's in the... Because they have separate bedrooms, from what I understand. They don't sleep together. So how does that work, you think?
I picture it being a nicely matted frame that he just points out to her regularly.
You're married, right? You're married, right?
Yes.
How many kids do you have?
I have 3.
You have 3 kids. Is the romance good in your relationship? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, we keep it spicy.
You're good. Okay.
Yeah, we're good there.
Do you have a contract with your husband where you have to have sex with him on a weekly basis, or is it just one of those things where it's just, just happens?
No, it was a notarized contract as well. That's what I'm assuming everybody has. That's kind of how you have to keep it spicy.
But I ask you that because I shouldn't say most, but there are some marriages out there, or relationships for that matter, where you have to keep things spicy. But I've talked to some people who have been married who haven't touched each other in 20 years, like my parents, for that matter. So but that happens, right? But you're saying everything is good there. So what is the key to a good, healthy, sexual marriage relationship?
I think you have to keep it a priority, and you have to talk to each other, and then there's toys, and that works well. All those 3 together keep it pretty great.
I have a friend of mine who, by the way, owns one of those toy shops. So if you ever need 20% off, I can help you out in that category.
I do. I'll be asking you for that address as soon as I leave here.
20% off.
Okay,
absolutely.
Great.
Well, hold on. I can't get off this. How many toys? Without getting too. How many toys do you have? How many toys do you have? Be honest. Don't lie.
More than I can name off the top of my head. But I don't have a number.
But isn't that intimidating to your husband?
We're going to say 10.
That's got to be.
She just made a very, very empowering post about using toys.
Really? I just did a promotion.
Instagram.
Yeah, I just did a promotion for a vibrator.
Really?
On my Instagram. Yep.
But some men are intimidated by that, right? So
Which is odd.
Is your husband intimidated by the fact that you have all these toys?
No, he bought me some of my first ones.
Because if I walk into a bedroom, scary thought, and there's a woman there, and horrible picture, right? And I'm ready to do the deed with her. Mm-hmm. And then before she's like, no. And she takes out all these toys. I feel like, well, what am I doing here now? Like, what am I doing here? I feel, I don't know. I just feel a little, embarrassed.
You feel replaced.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't feel necessary.
I disagree. You're a project manager. and you have a really important job ahead of you. And she even brought the tools. You didn't have to bring your own equipment.
But
I think that's very fair.
But I want to use my own equipment, though. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, get one in there then real quick. But, they're not cheap, so let's not waste the money.
That's true. But you understand my point, right? I want to use my own equipment, and if I see all this other equipment there, I feel like she doesn't need to use my equipment, and I feel less of a man, I guess you could say. Is that wrong of me to feel that way?
Yeah,
look,
for sure.
You see the way I look. Like I'm a bald 39-year-old, whiter than white. I look like Casper the Friendly Ghost. I need all the help I can get, so don't get me wrong. I'm not opposed to toys, but you understand.
So give some advice to our male listeners who feel emasculated under those circumstances that Brian just described.
Exactly.
Think of it more as everybody's having fun. You're going to have fun. Even before you get to use your equipment, she's having a good time. You're going to be having a great time. And it's still attributed to you. She can't exactly do the same things by herself that you can do with a partner. So, and that's why I think it's a lot about communicating. You can't just like spring it on them in the, you can't
just throw a toy at their face.
By the way,
yeah, exactly.
Here this is.
Like, hey, could you roll over and then here you go and slide it? That's not going to go very well.
Exactly.
That might be a little weird.
If you're just joining us, it is comedian Sara Buckley on social media known as Not the Worst Mom. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your career. I'm a big fan of what you do. So let's start off. What got you started in wanting to be a stand-up comedian? How old were you when you had this thought in your head, this is what I want to do for a living?
So I just started doing stand-up this year. Last year, I decided that I was going to do stand-up this year for the first time. So I spent about a year writing, figuring out jokes, figuring out how I wanted to position myself. And I kind of realized, I was in a job that I wasn't happy with. So I left that and I was like, well, if I'm doing something that makes money, that makes me happy, like what else can I do on the side that also makes me happy? And I've always been really passionate about comedy. I never really thought I'd be a stand-up comedian, but one day it kind of clicked at me, like, why not? Some of these other people have careers, they're not even funny. I don't understand.
And your story is kind of interesting because you leveraged the memes basically kind of as a platform to get yourself out there. You would have had that opportunity 20 years ago. That's
right.
Kind of different.
Right. Yeah, so I definitely started to sort of flex my comedy muscles, on Instagram. And then that, went really well. And just kind of my first gig literally fell into my lap. And then so did my second and so did my third. So I figure, like, one of my favorite quotes is from Steve Martin. And he just says, be so good they can't ignore you. And I think that has worked out so far. Hopefully it continues to do that.
So if you're just joining us again, we're joined by Sara Buckley, who is one of the up-and-coming rising comedians out there. So tell me,
in the world.
Yes.
That's what you said in the beginning.
I did say
on the
that.
planet.
He said in the universe.
So tell me.
And you mentioned Saturn.
So
specifically Saturn.
Right.
Tell me what it is like for you personally to be on stage for the first time and to be in front of a number of people. I would imagine you were a bit nervous.
I was a bit nervous, but not so much about bombing or not getting laughs because I was like, this is really funny. It's going to go well. More about remembering the jokes. So my ADHD kind of plays a role in that, of me just forgetting mid-sentence. You can't really recover from that. So that was probably my biggest nervousness, but I feel really comfortable on stage. I really, really like it.
Now, a lot of people that I talk to from the start, they're just nervous. And I've even spoken to comedians that have been doing this for a long time. Like I had Bill Burr on the show, and he said he still gets nervous in front of all these people.
Right.
He still shakes a little bit before he gets on stage, and he's a brilliant comedian, obviously. So speaking of comedians, I've named you a few. Chris Rock, Larry David. These are a few people. Chris Rock's unbelievable.
He's flexing right now, by the way, in case you can't tell.
Yeah. You don't want to see that. Me and Donald Trump have that in common. We have the manly physique. But anyway, That's another story. But what are some of the comedians that you grew up listening to, watching on TV, and that you said, wow, this is something I want to do?
I was definitely raised on the Howard Stern show. My dad made us listen to that in carpool. So like second, third, fourth grade.
That's why I got into radio.
It's kind of the way that I am.
Yeah.
Once I tell people that, they're all, oh, that makes sense. That's why you're awful. And then Jim Carrey, Robin Williams, Jerry Seinfeld.
Legends.
Yes. And then Bill Burr right now, huge. I'm a big fan of Tom Segura.
I love those guys. Those are really good. You have to apologize. I'm on my phone because I'm trying to book a guest in 15 minutes while I'm doing an interview at the same time. It's not an easy thing to do. But anyway,
I'm relatively offended right now. I'm sure she is as well.
I'm getting texts that we're going to have Bill Laimbeer coming up here in about 20 minutes. And while I'm doing an interview at the same time, it's not an easy thing to do. I apologize for that. But anyway, if you're just joining us, Sara Buckley in studio. Okay, so you said you've only been doing this for about a year, right?
Yes.
but you have a very large following for somebody that is very new to this.
Right.
So talk to me a little about some of the gigs that you have had. And obviously you call Las Vegas your home. So tell me, where have you performed in Las Vegas, or have you been on tours throughout the country where you performed in front? What's the biggest crowd you ever performed in front of?
Biggest crowd I've ever performed in front of was probably around 50 people. Well, no, maybe 80, somewhere around there. The first two I did were actually private events for just women. So, the ladies love me.
Is it too much information to ask? What do you get paid for a gig like that? You don't have to answer it if you don't want to.
It's okay. $20. Yeah.
So it's like a lap dance then. Is that what you're saying?
It's exactly like a lap dance.
That's exactly
what it is.
It's a verbal lap dance.
What would you charge for that?
For a lap dance?
Yeah, I want to know. JD was asking me before the show. He said, I want a lap dance with Sara Buckley. I want to ask her what she would charge, right? Right, JD?
That's a fair question. I'll give you a really good deal, $1 billion.
I think that's actually a decent number.
I don't think JD has that kind of money. I think if it was $500 million, you might get an offer, but $1 billion, that's
a billion is a lot.
Sarah, you're not
ask.
being reasonable.
That's true. I apologize.
Have you been to strip clubs with your husband? Like, have you been to that?
I have never been to a strip club.
What?
Never once. I'm born and raised here, and I've never been to a strip club.
How is that possible?
It's not really my thing. I think.
What about Chippendales?
I've not been to Chippendales. I've been to Thunder from Down Under and the Magic Mike show.
Did you enjoy that?
No, I wanted to jump off a cliff.
Why? You don't like the men and their physiques, or what's the deal?
I do, but get up there and chop wood, or change a car tire. Do
be a man.
Chop wood. I like that.
If you want to twerk like some other girls, I guess that's cool.
Do the dishes.
But you know why I asked that?
Now
because,
we're talking.
Hey, maybe your husband has some buddies in town, and he's like, hey, honey, we're going to the strip club. I'd like it if you came with us. It'd be kind of fun and sexy. That conversation never came up, because it's come up with me a lot of times.
No, it hasn't come up. If he wanted to go, I'd be fine with him going.
How'd you guys meet, by the way?
We met, I was in 6th grade when we met. We've been together for forever. So we met as kids, and then...
It's a love story.
It's obnoxiously.
It sounds like a Taylor Swift song, to be honest with you.
It is. Actually, it's exactly like a Taylor Swift song. Thank you. So we met as kids, and then he is actually my first boyfriend.
Oh.
And then we got married. I'm a teen mom, so I think that explains a lot.
That is very cool. So why is it that, your social media is at NotTheWorstMom, at NotTheWorstMarriage? Tell me why you decided to come up with that.
Well, I'm not a big fan of the mommy needs her wine, mommy needs coffee. And so I was trying to find a different angle.
Yes.
And I wasn't going to be just teen mom on there because it was taken. So I figure Not the Worst Mom. Moms constantly have pressure of being the best and, homemade goods and Pinterest, everything. And I'm like, really, as long as I'm just not the worst person out there, that's the bar that I set for myself.
That's the bar you set for yourself.
And
wow.
I've been very happy ever since.
We should do that with Donald Trump. As long as he's not the worst president, which is I could think you can make that argument. As long as he's not the worst, everything's okay, right?
I have it trademarked, so he'll also owe me $1 billion.
You sign a non-disclosure with okay.
Another contract as well.
Be honest, though. Be honest. For $120,000, which is what our girl Stormy accepted, would you have sex with Donald Trump? If your husband was okay with it, would you accept a payment for $120,000 to have sexual relations with Donald Trump unprotected?
How many people know?
Well, you're going to sign a non-disclosure, so nobody's going to know about it. Would you?
Nobody knew?
Well, if you signed a non-disclosure, I'm saying your husband would know. Obviously, you're going to tell him, and he would be okay with it. Would you do it for $120,000?
He would make me do it for $120,000. Yes, I would, and then we would go have a great dinner afterwards.
Is there a man on the planet that you would not have sex with for besides me, for $120,000?
I was going to say you, so let me think my second.
Besides me, that was obvious. That's obvious. JD is a very good-looking man. I look terrible. That's fine.
Oh,
how about our producer Jason? He's 4 feet tall. Would you have sex with him for $120,000?
He has a face I could breastfeed, so for sure. Come to mama. I am not intimidated by being tall. I'm fine with it.
I love that. What do you think of? I find it sexy. Is it weird for me to say if I see a very attractive woman and she's breastfeeding, I actually find that to be attractive? I don't know. I'm a man. I know it's not supposed to be about sexy.
I was at Brian's house one time, and there was a scene in Me, Myself, and Irene where she was breastfeeding, and that was on repeat on 6 different televisions for approximately 8 hours straight.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
It reminds me of Thanksgiving one year when my drunk uncle wouldn't stop staring at me breastfeeding in the corner. So
is that true? That really happened?
That's actually a true story.
So hold on a second. You're telling me you're breastfeeding your child, and your weird uncle is in the corner staring at your breasts.
No, it was eye contact, which I think was worse which I think might have been worse.
So what do you
I think
say?
that's worse. I would say that's worse.
It was for sure worse.
What do you say to him at that time? Like, do you say something to him when you guys are making eye contact? I mean, you're half naked, and he's like giving you this weird look, like a To Catch a Predator look. Like, what?
Right.
What do you say to him?
I think I just threw like a biscuit across the room. I didn't say much. Looked at my dad. My dad's like, I don't know what to do.
Like, you know what I would have done?
You know how he is.
Here's what I would have done.
Everyone has a weird uncle. That's kind of been established, right?
You should have just dropped the kid and you just said, hey, uncle, you're next, and see what he would have said.
I'd already dropped him a couple times at that point, so you have a limit to how many times you can drop them in that first year.
Why don't we take a few phone calls? Or people want to call in, you could ask Sarah about breastfeeding or anything you'd like, strip clubs. The number to call, 257-5396, or it's 702 if you're at a faraway place, 702-257-5396 if you want to ask comedian Sara Buckley a question. I think she'll have an answer for you. She seems to answer all of my questions very well. 257-5396. Why don't we go to Gary? Gary, what's up? You're on with comedian Sara Buckley.
What's up, Gary?
Wait, I love comedy. My favorite is Rodney Dangerfield. And reason why he came up with I Can't Get No Respect is because they used to yell at him all the time. Not you again, you bum. Get off the stage, you're no good. And then all of a sudden it occurred to him, he incorporated all this, what do you call it, negativity into his act. And that's why he's so great. Like
I agree, Gary. Gary, I got to tell you something. Rodney Dangerfield has always been one of my favorites. I was lucky enough to see him at his comedy club in L.A. Bob Saget was there, too, by the way. It's the first time I ever met Bob Saget. I can't believe how dirty he is. He's great.
He's very dirty.
Isn't he awesome, though?
He's just filthy.
I love
Mr. Tanner.
So it's one of the first autographs I ever got, and they let me into the club when I was 16. And I met Bob Saget, and I said, Bob, can I get your autograph? I was like, I wanted to get an autograph of a celebrity. And he signs it, Olsen twins gagged in the trunk of my car, Bob Saget. I still have the autograph, by the way. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life.
You're all, I am a child, and I thought that was hilarious.
I just said, Bob, I'm a big fan. Can I get your autograph? And he's talking about like a murder or something. I'm like, this is the best autograph I've ever had in my life.
That's pretty good.
Yes. Thank you for the call, Gary. 257-5396 if you want to give Sara Buckley a call. Let's go to Steve. Steve, what's going on?
Hi, I want to talk to Sarah. Good show you guys have.
Thank you.
Can I speak to Sarah for a minute?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sarah speaking.
Hi, Sarah. My name is Steve, back east. I got up drunk one night and did stand-up comedy. It's a horrible feeling the first time getting up there. And, in fact, I got a few laughs, but they said I was holding the mic so close to my mouth they could hear me breathing. And I went to a gong show once. I lasted the amazing sum of 3.5 minutes. But you are very funny because you sound very real, very down-to-earth, very off-the-cuff, and I like that.
Thank you.
Can I ask you one more question?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think of these crazy dating services? Did you ever have any friends that used any? I think it's funny because nobody tells the truth. What people should do is say, hi, my name is Steve. I'm 67, never been married. I'm all screwed up. I'd only like to meet somebody half as screwed up as I am, but nobody does that.
That's actually what it says in my profile. My profile on all these dating websites, hi, I'm a 39-year-old bald Jewish guy, and I have a horrible body, and I have no money, and I drive an 04 Hyundai Elantra. Would you like to date me? That's actually what my profile says. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
So what do I think of the dating profiles? I've been married since before those came out. I have no idea. I haven't dated since high school. I think they sound awful. I'd rather die alone than ever be on one of those websites.
You haven't dated since high school?
No, I've been married.
When did you lose your virginity?
Freshman, sophomore year.
You don't have a story to tell us or anything? Or
was
it like in the high
still
school?
Married to him.
Oh, wow.
I told you it was an obnoxious story.
Is that the only man you've ever been with?
No.
So you cheated on him?
Yes.
How old were you when you cheated on
him? Let's see. Can I say the D word?
No, don't say that.
Okay, well, I was a one blank wonder till I was about 27.
Okay.
So I lasted a while. I held out for a long time.
Wow. So you were wow. That's impressive, JD, isn't it not? You look shocked.
I'm very impressed. I'm not shocked. I'm impressed. But it does take away the Taylor Swift element of the story.
That is an incredible.
Does it though? Does it? Have you heard all her songs?
I'll have to relook at the lyrics.
So I want to give you a chance. We're just talking about sex, and now I'm talking about plugging. So don't get the wrong impression here. But I want to give you a chance to plug your social media, any upcoming gigs that you're planning on doing.
He meant to say promote.
Yes, promote. Plug, promote. It's the same thing, unless you're thinking dirty like JD does.
I was thinking dirty.
Yes,
so,
of course. I was too. So tell me a little bit about your social media and how can people find you and follow you?
Yeah, so I'm Not the Worst Mom on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And then our podcast, where we actually talk about our cheating story, is Not the Worst Marriage. And that's on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter too. So we did do a whole episode about both of our cheating and how we managed to get through it and make some really, really dark jokes that probably made a lot of people uncomfortable.
I am really looking forward to listening to your podcast because you are extremely funny.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you.
Absolutely hilarious.
And I appreciate you answering all my completely inappropriate questions.
And I would like to get both you and your husband in studio at some point.
You know what?
For sure.
That is a great idea. I would love for you guys to do that. That'd be a lot of fun. Well,
Yeah,
Sarah,
he's not as funny as I am, but I'll bring the heat.
well,
I
not many
believe that.
people are. You're very funny, and I truly believe this.
Very quick on your
one,
feet.
You are one of the most up and coming. I really believe that comedians out there, and we're glad that you call Vegas your home and you've lived here your whole life, which is incredible. But
Yeah.
congratulations on your early success. We know you'll have many more, and we appreciate you coming in.
Thank you so much.
All right, there you go.
Thanks a lot,
Sara
Sarah.
Buckley, not the worst mom. And I agree. She certainly doesn't sound like the worst mom at all. We'll take a quick break, be back right after this. Hey, guess what? Coming up after the break, we got Bill Laimbeer, coach of the Las Vegas Aces, will be joining us. Detroit Pistons NBA champion will be joining us next. Talk a little bit about the Vegas Aces season. I'll take a break, be back right after this. You're listening to the Vegas Take.
This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
Come on!